All right, in lesson 17 today, we're continuing to look at the New England or Northern colonies, the colonies up here, where Puritans and Pilgrims came by the thousands during the Great Migration and set up villages and towns and colonies like Plymouth, Salem, Boston, and colonies like Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. In these northern colonies, they were still under the British government's rules and laws, under the jurisdiction and power of the king and the parliament. However, because they were so far away, they were able to get a lot of self-rule locally. And they had local town meeting halls. They had different government systems from village to village, and they really had a lot of control over what they wanted to do. And most of them chose to use some type of representative form of government, representative democracy. And so this is where a lot of the representative democracy that we have here in the United States, the idea for that was born. Of course, it wasn't really including everyone. Women could not vote in most places, and only male church members could vote in most places as well. Speaking of religion, religion is very, very important in the northern colonies. These people came here for religious freedom. They came here to practice their religion, and their religion was very strict. Lots of time in church, lots of Bible reading, lots of strict rules to follow, and if you didn't follow those rules, you would be banished from the communities and kicked out. Several religious leaders didn't agree with all the rules and laws, like Thomas Hooker, Roger Williams, and Hutchinson, and they took groups of people out to other areas and formed other colonies like Connecticut and Rhode Island, which followed more of their point of view and more of their ideas about religion. There's Roger Williams right there. One of the biggest controversies during the time of the 1600s, late 1600s, 1690s, was the Salem witch trials. A preacher in the town of Salem, who was not terribly popular and kind of new, was taking some heat because his daughters were misbehaving, and then his daughters got sick, and it was unexplainable, and people thought his family was under the spell of the devil. However, his daughters probably were sick from maybe moldy bread or dehydration or a combination of the two. But when this idea got in people's heads, they kind of ran with it, and they wanted to, blame someone else. So they blamed a local outcast woman for being a witch and putting a spell on them. And once that started, the hysteria started, and people started accusing each other of being witches, falsely accusing, and even some of the women who were falsely accused of being witches ended up confessing to be a witch to save their lives, and in the same time frame, they told on other people who were innocent. So it just grew and grew and became a giant mess. In the end, 19 innocent women were killed, and it was a real disaster. And it shows what hysteria can do. When people get a fear of something and it grows, and a group of people get a fear of something, it's usually not the thing they are scared of that causes all the problems, but it's the actions they take because of their fear. And in this tragedy, 19 women lost their lives, and it's really almost like a form of bullying too, because they weren't women who were accused of being witches were not the popular women in the communities. They were the outcasts. They were the people who didn't fit in, people they didn't like, and so it's easy to pick on these women because they were weaker and they didn't have anyone to stand up for them. So the Salem witch trials is a real tragedy. What we talked about earlier. There you can see a woman going to the gallows during the time of the witch trials. What can we learn from this? We need to be aware of hysteria. We need to think for ourselves and not panic when we hear bad news or hear fear being spread on the television, the radio, on the internet. We need to think for ourselves and come up with the facts and the conclusions and not participate in mass hysteria. So I think that's a good life lesson we can learn from the witch trials. In terms of economics in this area, people made their money by fishing, shipbuilding, selling and trading things, and skilled crafts. The skilled crafts people use an apprentice system, whereas young boys usually would study under a master craftsman and then work their way up. Pretty good system. They did lots of fishing and whaling, and there was lots of trade as well, and ships built in New England were used all over the world. Education is extremely important. In the Puritan faith, you need to be able to read so you can understand the Bible, And for that reason, most of the local villages had at least one school in them. If the village had more than 50 families, they had a teacher in a school. And to train the teachers and preachers, Harvard University was started, and it's the oldest college in the United States, and it started in 1636. And still today, it's probably the most prestigious college in the United States, or as prestigious as any other. Um, and a great place for people to learn and educate themselves. Here you can see a little bit of some of Harvard, and some of the buildings are from the 1600s, still there today. All right, that's it. We'll look at the middle colonies in the next lesson. Thanks for your attention today.